Hey everybody, Melissa here. Welcome to my channel. I'm so excited you're all here. So today we're going to be in Office 365 Online and I'm going to show you how to use lists. Yay! And the crowd went wild. No, they actually didn't. They started screaming at me. Oh my gosh, Melissa. There are 25,000 ways to create a list. Do we really need 25,001? Maybe. And I get it. I really do. We can make lists in Outlook. We can make them on Office 365 Online. Shoot, we can make them in Word and Excel and Windows. And if you're in my house, let's see, we can talk to Alexa, our TVs, our Ecobee thermostat, refrigerator, our iPad, iPhone, cars, and the list goes on. So I absolutely get it. But let me put it to you like this. I use Microsoft Lists to create my content schedule and other schedules. Why? Because it's easy and it's extremely customizable to what I need it to do. And I hope by the end of this tutorial, you'll feel the same way. And I can't wait to show you how this works. So let's go ahead and get started. So from our online Office account, we're going to go to Lists. Now I know mine is in my left-hand toolbar and this is what the icon looks like, but if you're not sure or yours isn't here, you can go up to App Launcher, click there, and find Lists and click on it. Now it's going to bring us to this page, which is any recent lists that we've used and any that we have marked as a favorite. But what we want to do is create a new list. Now this is the next thing it's going to bring up, and this allows us to choose from a template, which if you're in IT, there's an issue tracker. If you're in HR, there's an employee onboarding and a recruitment tracker. If you are a YouTube content creator or a blogger, then you can use Content Scheduler, and then there's a few more. Now we also have the ability to create a blank list, import one from Excel, or create a duplicate from an existing list. But I'm going to show you how to create a blank list from scratch. So let's go ahead and click on it. And we can add a name here, and I'm just going to call it Schedule. And we can put a description if we want. It's not required. And then we can choose the color we want it to be. And that's how it's going to display here in our recent list or in our favorites. Let's just make this one that color there. And now we can choose our icon. Well, since it's a schedule, it makes sense to me to make it a calendar. But you can make it whatever you want. And I'm going to tell it to save to my list. Let's go ahead and create it. So it's going to bring us to this page. And it says, welcome to your new list. Now, if you notice, there is a title column here. And this is something we cannot change. Every task that you have that you put in a list has to have a title. So this is what I call a hard-coded column. Now just to give you an idea, if we do our drop down and go to column settings, we do not have an edit button. But if we go to format this column, we can change the view. And if we go to advanced, this is what is called a JSON script. So if you see developer.microsoft.com/JSON schemas and the rest of this, what that basically means is there's something Microsoft has done in the background to default this column that we cannot change. So just keep in mind, every task has to have a title, so this column will be there and we cannot change it. Okay? Okay. So let's go ahead and cancel out of here. Now let's add a column. So we can do that one of two ways. If we do our drop down here on title, column settings, add a column. Or we can just click on add a column. Now we have multiple column types that we can choose. We can make it a single line of text, multi-line, a location, yes or no, a choice, which is either a radio button or a drop-down menu, a hyperlink, and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a couple of columns to give you an idea, and they're going to be based on my YouTube content schedule, but just keep in mind it can be anything that you want it to be. So first let's add a date. So I'm going to do a date and time, and I'm going to name this date added. And this is what I want out here so I know what date I added this task to my schedule. We can give it a description, if we want to. And then we can change the type over here even though we chose it here, but I do want it to be a date and time. I'm going to leave that alone. I do not want it to include the time because I just want to know what date I put it in. I don't need to know that I put it in here today at 2:11 p.m. I just need to know that it was today's date. Now, friendly format, if you've ever been in File Explorer or anywhere that you have a file saved, even on your desktop, you may see, instead of a modified date, you may see a modified time. And what I mean by that is 4 hours ago, 3 hours ago, 25 minutes ago, yesterday, 2 days ago. That is friendly format. I do not want friendly format. I want it to say the exact date that it was modified. And that's totally up to you how you want that to be. Default value, you can have a default value or you don't have to. Since this is date added, I'm going to make it today's date because if I'm entering it, then that's the date it's added. Or you can pick a specific date if you want to. So let's click on today's date. It is not a field that's calculated. If we go to more options, we can require that this column contains information. You can go ahead and mark this as required, but because we set it as a default value of today's date, it's going to have it in there anyway. Enforce unique values. Now this one you have to be kind of careful with because it sounds a little bit different than actually what it is. So what this does, if you turn this on, it means that every single row has to have a unique value. So let's just say that I enter two things today and this date defaults to today twice. It's going to kick it out and say this has to be a completely different value. So for the most part, I don't use enforce unique values, but again, that's going to be a setting that's up to you. I take the default of add to all content types. And then if we go to column validation, we can actually add formulas and user messages. For example, if this column needed specific formatting, like it can't be any more than 5 characters, it has to be more than 5 characters, it can't contain letters, it can't contain special characters or anything like that, this is where you would put the formula and then a user message should they enter invalid information. So let's go ahead and tell it to save. So now we see our date added column. Now just keep in mind, anytime you add a column, it's going to tag it on to the end. But we can click on it and we can drag it where we want it. But I'm going to leave that one there. So now let's add another column. And we're going to do this one as a choice. And I'm going to name this one Program. And we can put a description in there or we don't have to. And this is a choice. So what we have here is choice 1, 2, 3, and the ability to add more. And this is what's either going to be our radio buttons or what's in our drop down. Now we can click on choice 1 and we can make it whatever we want. Since I'm a YouTube content creator, I'm just going to pull some of my programs, like let's say Excel. Let's make number 2 Word. Let's make number 3 lists, since that's what we're working on. So we have the ability to change our fill color. Let's make this one like a green. Let's make Word more of a blue. And we'll leave lists the way it is. Now we can add a choice. Just click on add choice. And then let's put PowerPoint in here. Let's add another choice and just put miscellaneous. Now let's say we don't need miscellaneous in our drop down. If we just come over here, click on it, we're good. It's gone. And then we can add whatever other ones we want and change those as well. The next thing we see is can add values manually. Now I'm the only one that is in my lists making changes or adding items or anything like that, but I still leave this unchecked and come back and add it through editing my columns if I need to. And the reason is if I add, say, Outlook and I misspell it, and then I add it again and I misspell it, or if I have Excel in there twice or anything like that, then it can mess up any kind of reporting and analytics that we can do within lists. So I leave this unchecked. For default value, I leave this as none because I don't know what it's going to be and I need to select it each time I enter a record. It is not a field that we have to worry about calculated values. Under more options, do we want it to be a drop down or radio buttons? I want this to be a drop down. Allow multiple selections. For this particular column, no, because it's either going to be Excel, Word, List, or PowerPoint. If you do have a column to where it can be more than one, then you can set it to allow multiple selections. Require that this column contains information? Yes. Enforce unique values? Again, no. Default to add to all content types, and we do not need any custom validation because it's a drop down. And let's go ahead and tell it to save. And it's added our program. So now let's add a column, and we're going to do another choice, and let's call this one status. And what this is going to be is, what is the status of my task or the item in my list? And it's going to be a choice. And let's do ready, or in my case, ready to be taped, scheduled, which means it's out on YouTube and it's getting ready to post, and then published. We do not want to add values manually. I'm going to go ahead and default this one to ready, because when I first put it in, it's going to be ready. It's not a calculated field. It is a drop down. We do not want to allow multiple selections. We do want this to be a required field. We do not want to enforce unique values. Take the default on content types. And then there's no column validation. So let's go ahead and do save. And there's our status. So let's do add a column again. Let's do one more choice. And I'm going to name this one publish to. And it's basically, where did I publish it? Facebook, YouTube, my blog. So for choice one, let's do YouTube. Let's do Facebook. And let's do Twitter. We don't want to add values manually. There will not be a default on this one. It's not calculated. It's a drop down. We want to allow multiple selections on this, because if I'm doing a YouTube video, I may turn around and post it on Facebook, Twitter, my LinkedIn, and my blog all at the same time. Require this contain information. Now I'm going to leave this one as no. And the reason is this will not have a status until it is out of ready. So you don't want it to be in ready and it be asking, where did you publish it to? You're not going to know that until it's in the scheduled phase. So let's go ahead and leave that as no. No unique values. Let's go ahead and save it. Publish to. Now we're going to add two more columns so I can just show you what they look like. Add column. We're going to add this one as a hyperlink. And I'm just going to name this one published link. And this is just going to be a hyperlink. Where did I post the YouTube video to? What is the link that YouTube assigned to that? More options. Require this column contain information. I'm going to leave this one as no, because I'm not going to have that link until it's scheduled. Let's save it. We've got one more we're going to add, and that's going to be an image. Now what this is when I create my thumbnail for my YouTube videos, I actually put a copy of it out here so that I have it in multiple places. More options. Require this contain information. No, because we're not going to have the image till we get to the scheduled phase. Default to yes. Tell it to save. And now we have all of our columns. Now let's add an entry. So we're going to go over to new. Now this new item box is going to pop up, and this is where we're going to add our information. So let's call this video 1. Our date added defaulted like we asked it to. Our program is required because it has the asterisk. Let's go ahead and do lists. Our status defaulted. Publish to did not default. But we can do our drop down here and we can pick YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and tell it okay. We have a place to put our link, any alternative text that we want to put for that link or more description, and then our image and any attachments that we want to add. Let's tell it to save, and there we have our first entry. So let's add another one. I'm just going to name this video to program Word ready Save. And I'm going to add a couple more. Aren't you glad I didn't make you sit through all that? So now we have a list of 12 videos. And right now they're all in Ready. They are different programs from List, Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. And they all have the same added date. So the first thing I want to show you is let's look across the top here next to our new button. We have what's called Edit in Grid View. Now if you remember, when we added a new item, this popped up. Okay. If we click on Edit in Grid View, it's going to look like this. And then you can add a new item down here. I prefer this look, but that's totally up to you. You can do it like that, or you can do it in Grid View. You can share it. You can put a name, a group, an email, and grant them access to this list. Let's just say I want to grant Leverage Technology. Now, if we do this drop down here, we can tell it full control, can edit, or can view. If I click on Grant Access, they're going to get an email saying they've been granted access, and then they'll be able to come in and work. We can export it to Excel or a CSV. We can automate it, which is to create rules and reminders. We can integrate it with Power Apps, Power BI, or Power Automate. And we can create alerts. So let's just say I want to be alerted. I can tell it, alert me how. So I can call this schedule, which matches the name of my list, send alerts to me. How do I want to get them? I can get them by email, I can get them by text message, and then what type of changes do I want? Do I want all changes, new items, existing, deleted? And then for these changes, do I want specific criteria? So when anything changes, someone changes an item, one's created by me, or if I modified an item, then someone comes in behind me and changes it. And then when to send the notifications, immediately, daily, which we can pick the time, or weekly, which day of the week and the time. So let's go ahead and get out of here. And now if we go to the top right, you'll see this when you hover over it, it says Switch View Options. We can view it as a list, which is what we have now. A compact list, which just makes it smaller. A gallery, which makes it look like big thumbnails if we were looking like, say, our File Explorer, which I like the list view. Items that need attention, which right now I don't have any. Yay! I'm up to date for just a minute though. All items. Create new view, which allows us to create a customized view. We can save a view, edit the current view, and that's going to bring us into SharePoint, which allows us to make changes on the SharePoint level. I'm going to caution you, if you are not very familiar with SharePoint, be very careful in these settings because SharePoint settings are global settings for the most part. So what you make here carries throughout everything that you do and everything that everyone sees when they come into your list or anything that accesses your SharePoint. So be very careful messing with SharePoint settings. So let's cancel out of there. So next we have filter. If we click on this, it'll open our filter pane and we can filter by program, published to, and title. We can pin it to where it's one of our favorite filters, or we can remove it if we no longer want it to be a favorite filter. We can also filter by particular columns, like we can go to title, filter by, and then we can click on one of these. We can go to program, filter by, and show us everything in Excel. To remove the filter, just click on it and remove it. Tell it to apply. And we can do that with any of our other columns. And then if you have any records or items that you want to make changes to, if you just click and go in, you can make whatever changes it is you need to make. So, what'd you think? Did I not say easy, customizable, and flexible? I mean, come on, it doesn't get any easier than that. Now, just keep in mind that you're going to encounter fields whether you are creating your list from scratch or you're using one of the templates that I call hard-coded static fields, and that means they cannot be changed or customized. However, outside of those, you can create whatever you want and customize it and use it however you need to within your list. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content like this in the future, please subscribe to my channel before you go. And if you have any questions, feedback, or ideas for future content, then drop me a comment and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Until then, thanks so much for watching.